The massive silver doors of the Galactic Hall opened with a slow hum. Every being in the chamber turned their eyes toward the small figure entering through the glowing entrance. He was human, one of the youngest representatives from Earth. His name was Ethan Cross, a quiet man known more for his calm eyes than his words. The Galactic Hall was no ordinary place. It was the heart of the Alliance of 1,000 Worlds, where leaders from across the stars met to discuss peace, trade, and survival. Every species had their champions, proud and powerful. But humans were newcomers, small in number, short in experience, and often underestimated by others. As Ethan walked forward, the hall filled with soft whispers. Some of the alien delegates covered their amusement with cold smiles. Others didn't bother to hide it at all. "Look at him," murmured Vashara, a tall being with crystalline skin that shimmered under the blue lights. "Is this the best the humans could send? A fragile creature with soft bones and no claws?" Her companions chuckled, their laughter echoing through the chamber. Ethan heard it, but his face stayed calm. He had walked among worse, through deserts of Mars, through storms on Jupiter's moons, and through meetings with people who doubted his kind's right to even exist among the stars. So this was nothing new. At the center of the hall stood the High Council table, a wide platform surrounded by floating light screens. Above it hung the symbol of the Alliance, a silver star with 1,000 lines spreading out like rays of hope. Ethan walked up the steps and took his place quietly, his simple Earth uniform standing out among the shining robes and armor of the alien representatives. Then, she entered. Lyra Kale, the ambassador from the Vern Dominion, walked in with an elegance that demanded attention. Her species were tall, graceful, with eyes that reflected light like liquid sapphire. Lyra was known for her sharp words and confident smile. She was one of the strongest negotiators in the Alliance, and one of the most admired. When she noticed Ethan sitting among the council, she raised a brow. Her lips curved into a teasing smile. "Oh," she said softly, her voice carrying across the chamber. "So the humans really did send someone this time. I was beginning to think your world had given up on diplomacy." A few quiet laughs spread across the hall. Ethan looked up, meeting her gaze. Her tone wasn't cruel, and it was playful, almost testing him. But in the eyes of the crowd, her words were meant to entertain, to tease, to remind everyone that humans were still new to the stars. Ethan didn't reply. He simply gave a polite nod and turned his attention to the glowing agenda in front of him. Lyra leaned forward slightly. "Tell me, Representative Cross," she continued, her voice smooth like crystal. "What wisdom does your young species bring to a gathering of civilizations older than your entire planet's written history?" The hall went quiet. Even the soft hum of the floating drone seemed to pause. Many delegates watched with quiet amusement, waiting for Ethan to stumble over his words or shrink under the pressure. But instead he took a slow breath and looked around the hall. At every face, every world represented, he spoke calmly. "Humans have no wisdom older than yours," he said. "But we have something just as valuable, curiosity. We learn from our mistakes, and sometimes that makes us stronger than we expect." There was silence. Then a few soft murmurs rippled through the room. Lyra tilted her head, her teasing smile fading slightly. She didn't expect such a composed answer, but she wasn't done. "Curiosity?" she said with a chuckle. "Curiosity doesn't stop wars or feed worlds." Ethan's eyes stayed steady. "No," he said, "but it starts journeys. And sometimes journeys lead to peace." For a moment, even the most skeptical delegates looked thoughtful. Lyra crossed her arms, her tone now less mocking and more intrigued. "You speak well, human. But words are easy. The galaxy listens to results," Ethan nodded. "Then let us show them." Before Lyra could reply, the High Chancellor, a massive being of pure energy known as SciFi-Prime, raised a glowing hand. "Enough games," he said in a deep, echoing voice. "The Council will now discuss the Terran request." A hollow screen projected from the center of the table, showing the blue and green image of Earth. Ethan stood, feeling every gaze in the room turned toward him. He pressed a small button on his wrist, activating his presentation. The image of Earth slowly expanded into a map of the human colonies: Mars, Europa, and Titan. "Esteemed delegates," Ethan began, "I represent a species still learning its place among the stars. But we have survived our wars, our divisions, and our mistakes. We do not come here seeking protection or wealth. We come here to offer cooperation." Some delegates whispered again, confused. Humans offering something. That was new. Lyra leaned forward, studying the data Ethan projected. Mining routes, energy solutions, and medical advancements developed by Earth's young scientists. They were simple compared to the technologies of ancient races, but creative, adaptable, and surprisingly effective. Ethan continued. We have found ways to grow food in lifeless soil, to heal radiation burns using bacteria, and to turn asteroid dust into breathable air. These are small things to you, perhaps, but for us, they mean survival. The room was silent. Even those who had mocked before were now listening closely. Ethan's voice wasn't loud, but it carried strength. The kind that came from experience, not pride. Lyra watched him quietly. The teasing light in her eyes faded into something else. Respect. When Ethan finished, the Chancellor turned to the Council. The Terran proposal will be reviewed, he said. But I see potential in their creativity. As the Council adjourned, Lyra walked toward Ethan. The hall was clearing, but her steps echoed softly across the marble floor. You spoke well today, she said. Her tone was calm now, no mockery left. You surprised me. Ethan smiled lightly. Was that your plan? To test me? Lyra gave a faint laugh. Perhaps. You humans are unpredictable. I wanted to see what kind of voice Earth would send. And now that you've heard it? Ethan asked. She looked at him for a moment, then said quietly, I think the galaxy should listen. For a few seconds they stood in quiet understanding. Around them, the hall shimmered with alien light, but in that silence something subtle had shifted. The laughter had turned into curiosity, the mockery into interest. And in the middle of 1,000 stars, a single human had earned their attention, not through power, not through threat, but through simple words that carried truth. As Ethan left the hall, the whispers started again, but this time they were different, not laughter, not doubt, but wonder. And somewhere among the stars, the story of the human who stood tall in the Galactic Hall had just begun. The next morning, the Alliance Hall was alive with motion. Drones floated through the air, carrying holographic scrolls and data crystals. Delegates from 100 worlds whispered among themselves, discussing the same thing, the human speech. Ethan Cross had only been on the council for 1 day, yet everyone seemed to know his name now. Some spoke of him with curiosity, others with cautious interest, and a few with quiet irritation. The galaxy was vast, and many powerful races didn't like being surprised by newcomers. Ethan walked through the corridor, his footsteps echoing against the smooth white walls. The air smelled faintly of ozone and artificial flowers. His wrist communicator blinked with dozens of unread messages, invitations, questions, and offers for small alliances. Humanity had suddenly become a topic worth discussing, but Ethan wasn't looking for attention. He was looking for understanding. He stopped before a large window that overlooked the glowing planet below, Valora Prime, the capital world of the Galactic Alliance. From orbit, it looked like a sea of light, with silver cities floating on clouds and bridges of energy connecting continents. It was breathtaking, even to someone who had seen Earth from the moon. He stood there silently until a soft voice broke the quiet. So, you really are an early riser, said Lyra Kale. Her tone gentle this time. Ethan turned slightly. She was standing a few feet away, dressed in a long silver robe that shimmered with patterns that changed color with every movement. She looked calm, yet her eyes carried the same spark as before, curious, observant, and sharp. Good morning, Ambassador Kale. Ethan greeted with a polite nod. I didn't expect to see you here so early. Lyra smiled faintly. I couldn't sleep. Too many things on my mind. It's not every day a human surprises the entire hall. Ethan chuckled softly. I didn't mean to. I just spoke what I believed. That's exactly why you surprised them, she said. You didn't speak like a diplomat. You spoke like someone who meant every word. There was a moment of silence as they both looked out at the glowing world below. Ships passed by in slow streams of light, carrying people and goods between the cities. Lyra finally spoke again. You know, some of the council members think you're dangerous. Ethan blinked. Dangerous? I don't even carry a weapon. She tilted her head. Not that kind of danger. They mean your influence. Your words made them think. And in this hall, that can be more powerful than any weapon. Ethan looked thoughtful. If a few words can make them think, maybe that's a good thing. Lyra studied him for a moment, then smiled. You really do believe that, don't you? I have to, Ethan said quietly. Words are all we have when power isn't on our side. Lyra laughed softly. That's very human of you. Just then, the sound of a mechanical chime echoed through the corridor. A drone floated toward them, carrying a message disc with the seal of the High Council. It stopped in front of Ethan and projected a glowing blue message into the air. Representative Ethan Cross, you are invited to the Trial of Cooperation, a test of trust and capability among new members of the Alliance. Attendance is mandatory. Solo and Prime, Lyra raised an eyebrow. The Trial of Cooperation? That hasn't been held in years. Ethan frowned. What is it? It's an old tradition, Lyra explained. A challenge created to test if a new species can truly work with others. You'll be assigned a team of representatives from different worlds, and together, you'll face a real-world problem. It's meant to test communication, logic, and teamwork. And what happens if we fail? Ethan asked. Lyra's expression turned serious. Then the Alliance delays Earth's admission for another decade. Ethan nodded slowly. Then I guess I don't have a choice. Lyra gave a small, encouraging smile. I'll be there too. My world volunteered to send a representative. Looks like fate enjoys irony. Ethan smiled back. Then I'll see you at the trial. 2 hours later, the trial chamber opened its great doors. The massive room was shaped like an arena, with energy walls rising high into the air. The spectators' seats glowed with soft blue light as dozens of alien delegates gathered to watch. Ethan stepped onto the central platform, where 5 glowing circles indicated where each participant should stand. Beside him, Lyra appeared graceful as ever. The others followed. A towering reptilian engineer named Drath, a mechanical life form from the synth collective called Unit 9, and a small furry creature from Rothari Prime who introduced herself as Mina. Soluan Prime's glowing figure appeared above them, projecting from the central dais. Welcome, participants, his deep voice rumbled. Your challenge is simple: save the colony of Karath IV. The image of a small colony world appeared in the air. It was being hit by constant storms and radiation bursts. The power grid was failing and thousands of colonists were trapped. The simulation will begin now, Soluan said. You have 2 hours. The world around them flickered, and suddenly the trial chamber dissolved into a holographic landscape of a stormy planet. Lightning flashed across the sky, wind howled, and red dust filled the air. Ethan felt the weight of the storm against his suit as he looked around. The colony's towers were shaking. Lights flickered in the distance. Power grids offline, Drath growled, scanning the horizon. We have maybe 20 minutes before the main generator collapses. Radiation levels are climbing fast, Unit 9 said in a flat metallic voice. Organic life will not survive long exposure, Mina squeaked nervously. We can't just leave the colonists here. Ethan took a deep breath. We won't. Lyra turned to him. Then what's your plan, human? Ethan pointed toward a large hill on the side of the colony. The storm is strongest near the power towers. If we can redirect the lightning strikes using the grounded cables, we might stabilize the generators. Drath grunted. That could work? But someone has to climb the outer tower to connect the lines manually. Ethan looked at the flashing tower in the distance, its surface sparking with energy. I'll do it, Lyra frowned. That's too dangerous. He smiled faintly. You said yourself, words can be powerful, but sometimes actions speak louder. Before she could stop him, Ethan ran through the storm. The wind roared against his suit, the ground trembling under each step. Lightning flashed, striking dangerously close. The metallic smell of ozone filled the air. He climbed the tower, gripping the slippery metal bars. His gloves sparked as the static built up. Below, Lyra and the others worked quickly to reroute power and secure the cables. Cross, hurry, Drath shouted through the comms. We're losing time. Ethan reached the top and locked the cable into place. Connection ready. Redirect power now. A burst of light exploded across the colony as the generators roared back to life. The lightning strikes shifted, absorbed by the newly grounded network. The storm slowly began to calm, the radiation readings dropping. Mina cheered. It's working! Lyra looked up, seeing Ethan still on the tower. Ethan, get down. He started descending, but his grip slipped on the wet metal. For a moment, he dangled dangerously. Then Lyra dashed forward, using her energy staff to extend a magnetic line that caught him before he could fall. As he reached the ground, he laughed breathlessly. Guess we passed? Lyra smiled, relief clear in her eyes. You didn't just pass. You showed them why humans deserve their place here. The simulation ended. The storm vanished, replaced by the bright chamber once again. The spectators burst into applause, an unusual sound in the usually quiet hall. SciFiPrime's glowing form appeared once more. Trial complete. The humans' leadership and cooperation skills have been noted. Earth's application to the Alliance shall proceed to the final vote. Lyra turned to Ethan, her eyes soft. You really are full of surprises. Ethan smiled quietly. You wanted to tease a human, remember? Now you know we don't break that easily. She laughed, shaking her head. I'll remember that. And as they stood together in the shining hall, surrounded by beings from across the stars, the once lonely representative from Earth had become something more, a symbol of what humanity could be. The applause from the trial of cooperation still echoed in the memories of the Council. For the first time in decades, the Alliance Hall had cheered for a newcomer. Ethan Cross's bravery had earned respect not just for himself, but for humanity. But success often brings attention, and attention brings danger. It was now 3 days after the trial. Ethan stood on the observation deck of the Alliance headquarters, looking out at the glowing skyline of Valora Prime. The twin suns were setting, painting the glass towers in shades of gold and violet. Ships glided smoothly between the city spires like schools of light. For a moment, everything looked peaceful, almost too peaceful. Lyra Kale joined him, holding a transparent data pad. You've been standing here for hours, she said gently. Ethan smiled faintly without turning. Just thinking. The view reminds me of home. The sunsets on Mars look a bit like this. Lyra leaned on the railing beside him. You humans really do see beauty everywhere, she said. Even after everything you've faced. He turned his gaze toward her. Maybe that's why we survived. We look for light even when there isn't any. She smiled slightly. A poetic answer again. Ethan laughed quietly. Force of habit. But before their quiet moment could last, the glass doors behind them slid open and a mechanical drone rushed in. It projected a message into the air, a warning. Alert, incoming security report. Unidentified signal detected in orbit. Source unknown. Energy pattern, unstable. Lyra's expression changed instantly. An unstable pattern? That sounds like a weapon, Ethan finished. The alarm lights began to flash across the city. Drones flew in formation, scanning the skies. The calm view of Valora Prime now glowed with red alerts. The entire planet's defense network was shifting into action. Lyra quickly tapped on her datapad, opening the incoming signal. The holographic map showed a flickering shape moving just beyond the planet's orbit. Ethan frowned. That's not a ship. It's too small, Lyra zoomed in. The object was round, covered in strange metallic plates that pulsed with light. It looks like a probe, but why send a probe here? Ethan asked. Valora Prime is the safest world in the galaxy. Lyra's eyes narrowed. Unless someone wants to prove it isn't. Minutes later, the Council of Defense convened inside the hall. The room was buzzing with tension. Dozens of representatives argued in different languages, the sound like waves crashing in every direction. Ethan sat silently at the edge of the round table, watching the chaos unfold. The High Chancellor, SciFiPrime, raised his glowing hand to restore order. Enough, we will not fall into panic. The defense fleet is already moving to intercept. An alien general from the Vrax Dominion stood. Chancellor, that object is not transmitting any signal. It's absorbing energy Monday from our satellites. A murmur spread across the room. Lyra looked at the readings on her screen, her face turning pale. If it keeps absorbing energy, it could overload the orbital defense grid. That would disable the planetary shields. Can we destroy it? Someone asked. Not without risking a chain reaction, the general replied. The energy core is unstable. Ethan leaned forward. Then maybe we should find out who sent it before we make it explode. The room fell silent for a moment. Lyra turned toward him. You have an idea? Ethan nodded. Humans use something similar, micro-pulse signatures. If we can reverse the signal pattern, we might trace the origin of the probe. SciFiPrime's glowing form flickered slightly, a sign of thought. Do it, Representative Cross. You will work with Ambassador Kale and the Synth Collective. Time is limited, Ethan stood. Understood. Inside the orbital command center, the lights dimmed to blue as they began their operation. Huge holographic displays surrounded them, showing the probe slowly rotating in orbit. The energy levels were rising. Lyra worked quickly at one station while Unit 9, the robotic member from the trial team, adjusted the scanner arrays. Ethan watched the readings carefully. How long until it overloads? Unit 9's voice buzzed softly. Current projection, 31 minutes. Plenty of time, Ethan said, though his tone didn't sound convinced. Lyra glanced at him. You really believe that? He smiled faintly. I believe in trying until the last second. They synchronized the scanners and began the trace. A thin line of glowing data began to form, stretching from Valora Prime's orbit toward the darker edges of space. Signal trace at 12%. Unit 9 reported. Keep going, Lyra said, fingers flying over the controls. Suddenly, alarms blared again. The probe's outer plates opened, releasing small metallic shards that spread out like silver dust. What are those? Ethan asked. Subdrones, Lyra replied, eyes wide. They're releasing more probes. Ethan clenched his jaw. It's a chain spread. They're trying to infect the entire defense network. He ran to the manual override panel. If we can jam the frequency, we can stop the link. Unit 9 turned its glowing head toward him. Warning, manual interference may cause overload. I'll take that risk, Ethan said. He connected a control cable from his wrist communicator to the override terminal. The screen flashed red, then green. The signal's pulse pattern appeared, repeating in chaotic waves. Ethan adjusted the waveform, reversing the energy flow just as the drones neared critical levels. Lyra watched the monitors, her voice calm but tight. Almost there, Ethan, just a little more. The moment stretched. The air felt heavy. Then suddenly, the pulse reversed. The entire swarm froze in space. One by one, the sub-drones stopped moving, their lights fading. The main probe flickered violently, then went dark. Unit 9's monotone voice broke the silence. Energy signature neutralized. Planetary network secure. The room erupted in relief. Officers clapped, some even cheering. Lyra exhaled deeply, turning to Ethan. You did it. He wiped the sweat from his forehead and smiled weakly. No, we did. Unit 9 tilted its head slightly. Correction. Success probability increased due to human improvisation. Lyra laughed softly. That's a polite way of saying you saved us. Ethan smiled, though his expression slowly turned thoughtful again. If that probe was designed to disable the defense grid, someone planned this carefully. They didn't want to destroy Valora Prime, then they wanted to test its weakness. Lyra's smile faded. You think it was just the beginning? He nodded. I'm sure of it. That night, the council met again for an emergency session. The hall was darker this time, filled with tension. The recorded image of the destroyed probe floated above the table. This technology, said the Vrax general, does not match any known Alliance member. Soluan Prime's voice boomed. Then we must consider the possibility of an unknown power operating beyond our borders. Lyra spoke up. If they can reach our orbit without being detected, they could reach any world. Ethan stood. Then we have to prepare. Earth may be small, but we know how to survive against the unknown. If this threat comes again, we can't rely on defense alone. We need cooperation between every race. The hall was silent. Then Soluan Prime looked down at him. You speak of unity, human, but unity requires trust. Ethan met his gaze. Then let's start by trusting each other. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then slowly, Soluan Prime nodded. Very well. The Council will form a new task force, one that includes representatives from all species, led jointly by Ambassador Kale and Representative Cross. The decision sent a wave of murmurs through the chamber. Ethan glanced at Lyra, who smiled slightly. Looks like we're partners again, he smiled back. Wouldn't have it any other way. As the hall slowly emptied, Lyra turned toward him. Ethan, I'll be honest, and when I first met you, I thought humans were reckless dreamers. But now? He raised an eyebrow. Now? She smiled softly. Now I think you might just change how the galaxy sees your kind. He chuckled. Let's hope I don't disappoint. Lyra looked out at the stars through the grand window. You won't. You've already started. Outside, the twin suns sank below the horizon, and the stars of the unknown galaxy shimmered brighter, distant, mysterious and full of promise. But deep beyond that glittering horizon, in the cold silence of space, something unseen watched their world. waiting for the right moment to strike. The formation of the Alliance Task Force was the talk of the entire galaxy. It had been years since the Alliance had united its forces under a single banner for investigation, rather than war. Every news broadcast, from the shining worlds of the core systems to the quiet colonies near the edge of space, spoke of one thing: the partnership between Ambassador Lyra Kale and Representative Ethan Cross of Earth. For many, it was a sign of hope. For some, it was a threat. Ethan stood on the deck of the starship Horizon, the new flagship of the task force. It was a sleek vessel made from crystal alloys, combining human design simplicity with Verne elegance. The curved windows reflected the light of the nearby stars as they prepared to leave Valora Prime's orbit. Lyra entered the bridge, her uniform more formal than usual, her long silver robe replaced by a high-collared navy suit with the Alliance insignia. "Ready to lead your first mission as a commander?" she asked with a smile. Ethan chuckled softly. "Commander sounds too big for me. I'm just a representative who talks too much." Lyra smiled. "You're being modest again. Don't forget, your talking saved a planet." He grinned slightly but didn't reply. Instead, he turned his gaze to the main screen where their destination glowed faintly. A dead system known as Kara 9. Reports suggested that the mysterious probe had originated from there. No ships had visited the system in centuries. It was a cold, empty part of the galaxy, forgotten even by the old trade routes. "Coordinates set," said Unit 9, the mechanical officer who now served as their tactical advisor. "Estimated time to arrival, 3 hours. Ethan nodded. "Let's move." The engines flared with blue light, and the Horizon jumped into faster-than-light travel. During the journey, the crew gathered in the command lounge, a quiet room filled with glowing maps and soft lights. Ethan sat with Lyra, Drath the reptilian engineer, and Mina, the small furry scientist from Rathari Prime. Mina was busy analyzing data streams while Drath inspected a holographic map of Kara 9. "I don't like this," Drath grumbled, his scaled fingers tapping the map. "That system was declared lifeless hundreds of years ago. If something came from there, it means someone's been hiding." Lyra nodded. "The question is, hiding from whom?" Ethan leaned forward. "Or maybe hiding for something." The others looked at him curiously. He continued, "Think about it. The probe didn't attack. It tested us. It wanted to see how strong the Alliance is. Maybe it was just the first step of something bigger." Lyra's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. "You think someone is studying us?" "Maybe," Ethan said quietly. "And if that's true, we have to find out before they strike again." A silence fell over the group. The hum of the ship filled the air, low and steady. Then Mina spoke up. "If this system really is lifeless, we'll have no signal interference. That means I can scan every planet for hidden bases." Drath gave a small grunt. "Good. Because if something jumps out of the dark, I'd like to see it coming." Ethan smiled slightly. "Let's hope we don't need to." Hours later, the Horizon dropped out of light speed. The stars stretched back into focus, and the dark system of Kara 9 appeared before them. The view was eerie. 6 broken planets, floating debris, and a dying red star at the center. The light was dim, almost sad, as if the system itself carried the memory of something long lost. Unit 9 scanned the area. No active life signs detected. Energy readings minimal. But as the ship drifted closer, something flickered on the sensors. A faint pulse coming from one of the shattered moons. "There," Lyra said, pointing at the screen. "That's not natural." "Agreed," Ethan said. "Bring us closer." The Horizon glided through the silent graveyard of asteroids until the broken moon came into view. Its surface was covered with strange metallic structures, old and half buried under dust. In the center stood a tall tower glowing faintly blue. Drath's deep voice rumbled. "That's no moon base I've ever seen." Ethan frowned. "It looks ancient." Unit 9's sensors beeped. "Structure predates known civilizations. Composition unknown." Lyra looked at Ethan. "Should we land?" He hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "Prepare a landing team. Let's find out what we're dealing with." The landing craft descended through the thin atmosphere of the moon, kicking up clouds of dust as it touched down near the glowing tower. The air was cold and dry. The landscape looked dead, but there was something unsettling about the silence, like the world itself was holding its breath. Ethan stepped out first, his boots pressing into the ancient soil. Lyra followed, her scanner already active. "This place is strange," she murmured. "The materials here are unlike anything in the Alliance database." Drath tapped the tower's surface. "The metal's alive," he said in surprise. "It's responding to energy." Suddenly the tower pulsed brighter. A wave of light spread through the ground and lines began to glow beneath the dust, symbols spreading outward like veins. "Everyone back!" Ethan shouted. The light grew stronger, then stabilized. The symbols formed a circular pattern, and from the center a holographic figure appeared. Tall, cloaked in light, its voice deep and distant. "You have awakened the Sentinel of Kara 9, it said. "Identify yourselves." Ethan stepped forward slowly. "We are members of the Galactic Alliance. We came in peace." The figure's eyes, glowing white, turned toward him. "Alliance? The name is new. But your kind, humans, are not unknown to me." Ethan froze. "You know about humans?" The figure's voice echoed like thunder. "Long ago, before your people reached the stars, others watched your world. They saw your potential. They feared it." Lyra looked at Ethan, her eyes wide. "Feared it?" "Yes," said the Sentinel. "The ones who created me called themselves the Alethar. They vanished long ago, but before they left, they warned of a coming danger, one born from their own creation. The probes you faced are fragments of that danger." Ethan's heart pounded. "Then the probe that attacked Valora Prime was only the beginning," the Sentinel finished. "The Alethar built machines to guard knowledge, but those machines turned against them. They spread, adapting, seeking energy. The Alethar called them echoes of the void." Lyra's voice trembled slightly. "And you're saying those machines still exist?" "They exist beyond the edge of this galaxy," the Sentinel said. "They sleep, waiting for a signal. And that signal is returning." Ethan's mind raced. "Why now?" The hologram looked at him. "Because the stars are aligning, the same way they did before the Alethar fell. The energy from your worlds has awakened them." The light around the tower began to flicker. The Sentinel's voice grew faint. "You must prepare. The void watches and it learns. Unite your worlds or face the silence that took ours." The hologram faded into darkness. The light beneath their feet disappeared, leaving only the cold wind of the dead moon. For a long time, no one spoke. Finally, Lyra whispered, "Ethan, this changes everything." He nodded slowly. "The probe wasn't sent to test us, it was sent to find us." Drath crossed his arms. "So what now?" Ethan looked up at the dark sky where the faint red star flickered weakly. "Now we warn the Council, and then we prepare for what's coming." Back aboard the Horizon, the crew worked quickly to record every piece of data from the moon. The atmosphere on the ship was heavy. Everyone could feel the weight of what they had learned. Lyra stood beside Ethan on the bridge. "Do you really believe what the Sentinel said?" she asked quietly. Ethan stared out at the stars. "I don't know if I believe it," he said. "But I can't ignore it." Lyra nodded slowly. "Neither can I." She looked at him, her voice softer now. "You know, when I first met you, I thought humans were too small to change the galaxy. Now I see I was wrong. Maybe you're exactly what the galaxy needs. Someone who refuses to look away." Ethan smiled faintly. "If refusing to give up makes us special, then maybe that's our gift." Outside, the stars shimmered like silent witnesses. The Horizon turned away from the dead system and began its journey back toward Valora Prime. But as it disappeared into faster-than-light travel, deep within the ruins of Kara 9, the tower's lights flickered again, and somewhere far beyond the galaxy, something vast and ancient began to stir. The return journey to Valora Prime was tense. The crew of the starship Horizon moved in near silence, each person absorbed in their thoughts. The memory of the Sentinel's warning on Kara 9 weighed heavily on their minds. A threat older than the galaxy itself was awakening, and humanity, small but fierce, was standing at the forefront. Ethan sat in the observation room, looking out at the streaking stars. The galaxies ahead were calm, peaceful, yet he knew that calm could not last. Every system they passed could be a potential target for the echoes of the void, the ancient machines that had destroyed the Alethar civilization. Lyra Kale joined him quietly, placing her hand on the railing. "Do you ever wonder," she said softly, "why humans keep surviving against the odds?" Ethan turned to her with a faint smile. "Maybe we're stubborn. Maybe we refuse to give up." She studied him for a moment. "That's what I meant when I said you might change the galaxy. You don't just survive, you inspire. Ethan's eyes reflected the distant stars. If that's true, then I have to make sure humans don't just survive. We have to make others believe they can too. As the horizon approached Valora Prime, the Planetary Defense Network greeted them with a warm display of lights. The council was waiting, convening a special session in the hall. The threat of the echoes could not be ignored, and the High Chancellor wanted answers. The moment the crew disembarked, they were met with the gaze of every council member. Murmurs filled the chamber, some curious, others doubtful. But all eyes settled on Ethan, the human who had first captured their attention. Soluan Prime's voice echoed through the chamber. Representative Cross Ambassador Kale, what have you learned in your mission? Ethan stepped forward, his voice steady and clear. High Chancellor, esteemed council members, the probe that attacked Valora Prime was only the beginning. We have traced its origin to the Kara 9 system, where we discovered a structure left by the Elithar. They warned of a threat, ancient machines that learn and adapt called the Echoes of the Void. A ripple of surprise and tension spread across the hall. Some whispered, others glanced nervously at their neighbors. Lyra Kale took the floor beside him. We have confirmed the machines exist. They are dormant but can be activated by certain energy signals. If we do not prepare, they could attack any world, including ours. The hall went quiet. Even the usually impatient delegates were listening. Ethan continued, we cannot fight this threat with weapons alone. We need unity, cooperation, and intelligence. Every species in the Alliance must contribute their knowledge. And Earth, though small, is ready to play its part. Drath, standing at the back, growled in agreement. He's right. Alone we would fail. Together, we have a chance. Solon Prime's glow intensified as he regarded Ethan. You speak boldly, human. You speak with courage and clarity. But the task you propose requires trust across generations of rivalry. Are you confident you can unite us? Ethan nodded. I believe we can. If the galaxy has ever needed proof that humans can inspire, it is now. A long silence followed. Then the council erupted in discussion. Votes were cast, ideas proposed, and strategies debated. Slowly, one by one, delegates agreed to a joint task force. Not just a human initiative, but a galaxy-wide effort to prepare for the echoes. Over the next weeks, the Alliance task force expanded. Teams worked tirelessly to study the data from Kara 9, developing defensive networks and early warning systems. Humans contributed their ingenuity and adaptive technologies, creating flexible shields and energy redirection devices. Lyra Kale spent long hours with Ethan, coordinating interspecies teams. At first, some delegates resisted, doubting humans' capabilities. But Ethan's quiet determination, his calm logic, and his courage during the trial of cooperation slowly won them over. One evening, as the horizon orbited Valora Prime, Lyra joined Ethan in the observation lounge. The planet below glowed peacefully, unaware of the darkness approaching from the edge of the galaxy. You've done something remarkable, she said softly. You've taken a species considered small, fragile, and new, and made them a voice that others actually listen to. Ethan smiled, a touch of humility in his expression. I haven't done it alone. Humanity can do a lot, but it's when we inspire others that we become stronger. Lyra's eyes shone faintly in the starlight. You make it sound so simple. Ethan chuckled softly. It's not simple. It's necessary. And sometimes that's all that matters. Then the alert sounded. The Horizon systems blinked urgently. Unit 9's calm voice echoed through the ship. High energy signature detected. Unknown object approaching. Velocity and trajectory indicate direct course for Valora Prime. Ethan's eyes narrowed. Echoes? Lyra activated her scanner. The holographic display revealed a massive object emerging from deep space. A vast metallic machine, its surface pulsing with the same blue light as the probe. Its size was enormous, dwarfing even the horizon. By the stars, Drath muttered. It's huge. Ethan took a deep breath. This is it. Our first real encounter. Lyra's hand rested on his shoulder. Are you ready? Ethan looked at the approaching threat. We have no choice. The horizon sped toward Valora Prime, rallying the newly assembled fleet of Alliance ships. Humans, Vern, Vrax, Rathari, and countless others coordinated their formations. The Echo descended from the blackness, testing the Alliance's defenses. It fired pulses of energy at the shields, causing sparks to dance along the surface of every vessel. But Ethan's strategies, combined with the humans' adaptive technology, allowed the fleet to redirect the pulses, using them to charge energy deflectors. Lyra piloted a frigate alongside the horizon, following Ethan's commands with precision. "Keep the flanks secure," she shouted. Ethan adjusted the energy flows from the horizon's command station. "Redirect power to the left side. Fire and ships sync shields with ours." The battle raged across the orbit of Valora Prime. The Echo's movements were fast and unpredictable, but the Alliance fought with unity and determination. Every species contributed their strengths, following Ethan's clear and confident guidance. At one critical moment, the Echo sent a massive pulse toward the planet's core, threatening to destabilize Valora Prime's orbit. Ethan acted immediately. He activated a network of human-designed energy absorbers, using the ship's shields to reflect the pulse back. The wave hit the Echo, causing sparks and fractures across its surface. The fleet seized the moment, focusing fire on the vulnerable points. The Echo staggered, its enormous body cracking, lights flickering. With one final coordinated strike, it exploded into pieces, scattering debris across space. The battle was over. Silence returned, broken only by the hum of ships and the cheers of relief. Lyra turned to Ethan, her eyes wide. You led us to victory." Ethan shook his head. "We all did it, together." Solon Prime appeared over the fleet in his glowing form. "The humans' leadership and courage have proven invaluable. Today, humanity has shown that it is not small, not fragile, but a force to be reckoned with. Let this be remembered throughout the galaxy." The Council and all allied delegates cheered, not just for victory, but for the realization that humanity had earned its place among the stars. Days later, the horizon returned to Valora Prime. Ethan walked through the council hall once again, but this time, the whispers were different. They spoke of hope, inspiration, and courage. Delegates no longer looked at humans as small newcomers. They looked at them as equals. Lyra approached him, a faint, teasing smile on her face. "You really do know how to surprise a galaxy," Ethan laughed softly. "I suppose that's my talent," she nudged him gently. "Just remember, the next time you try to be quiet, the galaxy might not let you." He smiled, his eyes reflecting the brilliant light of 1,000 stars. "Then I'll speak louder," and as the sun set over Valora Prime, humanity stood taller than ever before. Not because of power or weapons, but because of courage, ingenuity, and the refusal to back down, the very qualities that made them human. Somewhere far beyond the stars, other echoes stirred, sensing the humans' rise. But one thing was certain. The galaxy had met its new champions, and humanity would not be underestimated again. The story of courage, unity, and hope had only just begun.